Hello, geometry folks, and welcome to circles. We have area and circumference of a circle. So you need your calculator, your formula sheet, and a pen or a pencil, and your notes. You will take notes in your notebook, okay? And then you can write down the formulas on your formula sheet. There are no examples on your formula sheet. All right, here we go. So let's talk about what a circle is. A circle, it is a set of all points that are equidistant to the center point. Okay, write that down in your notebook. So here we have a circle, and let's talk about the parts of a circle. The circle has a center point. From the center point to the outside of the circle, every time I draw a line from the center to the outside, those points are equal distance. Those points are called the radius. Okay? So the radius of the circle is from the center to the outside. Another part, if I go ahead and draw a radius and then I continue it through the circle to the other side, that would be called a diameter. So a diameter is like two radiuses. So 2 times r is what the diameter is. Okay, and the diameter has to go through the center of the circle from one side to the other. All right, now that we have those parts down, let's get out your formula sheet and write down these two formulas. So the circumference of the circle is 2 pi r. Okay, the area of a circle is pi r squared. What's the difference between the area and the circumference? Circumference is the distance around the outside, so around the circle. It's like perimeter. It's what we call perimeter for squares and rectangles and trapezoids. Okay, and then the area is how many square units can we fit inside the circle. So how many square units we can fit inside the circle is area. Now remember, area is measured in feet squared, or inches squared, or centimeters squared, or miles squared, okay, etc. So it can be anything, but remember, it's squared. How many squares can we fit inside the circle? Circumference is like the perimeter, so the distance around the circle. So that's going to be measured in feet, or inches, or centimeters, or meters, or miles, okay? But it's not going to have a square unit. All right, so make sure these are on your formula sheet. Now, get out your notebook again, and we are going to do some examples in our notebook. All right, so we want to find the area and circumference of a circle with a diameter of 8 feet. So if I have a circle and the diameter, remember the diameter goes through the center of the circle. The diameter is 8. We know that diameter is equal to 2r, or 2 radiuses. So diameter is 8, 2 times r, divide by 2, and we will know our radius is 4. So now that we have a radius, we can go ahead and use the formulas circumference and area. So area is pi r squared. Okay, pi times 4 squared, that would be 16 pi, and this is in terms of feet, so it would be feet squared. So if I wanted the answer in terms of pi, you do not multiply 16 times pi. If I want the answer estimated, then I can go ahead and type in 16 times pi in your calculator. You can find the pi button if you have a scientific calculator, and you would get 25.13 feet squared. All right, now if you want the circumference, circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So 2 times pi times the radius of 4, that would be 8 pi feet. Now that's if I want it in terms of pi. If I want the answer in terms of an estimated answer, decimal answer, and not in terms of pi, I would take 8 times pi in my calculator and I get 50.27 feet. Okay, so sometimes we want our answer in terms of pi, and sometimes we don't want our answer in terms of pi. Just have to make sure you follow the directions. All right, let's do another one. Find the area and circumference of a circle with a radius of 9 feet. Oh, here we are. Leave your answers in terms of pi, so I do not want the rounded answer this time. So I have a circle, and the radius is 9, okay? So if I know the radius is 9 feet, I can go ahead and find area and circumference using my two formulas. Area is pi r squared, circumference is 2 pi r. So pi r squared. So that'd be 9 squared if I'm looking at the area. So area is 81 pi feet squared. And I want my answer left in terms of pi, so I do not want a rounded decimal answer. Circumference will be 2 times pi times 9, which would be 18 pi feet. Again, I want it in terms of pi, so I do not want a decimal answer here. All right, going to example number 3. Example number 3 says the circle has a circumference of 28 pi. So now we have circumference, and you want to find its area. So if we know the circumference is equal to 2 pi r, we can say that the circumference is 28 pi, because that's what it gave us, is equal to 2 pi r. So what does it look like I'm looking for? It looks like I'm going to try to find radius. And I need a radius before I find the area. So I'm going to divide by 2 pi. 28 pi divided by 2 pi. 28 divided by 2 is 14, and pi divided by pi cancels out. So the radius is 14, okay? And so now if I know the radius, I can go ahead and find the area. So area is 2 pi r. Radius is 14. So 14 squared pi would be 196 pi. And that would be the same as, if I wanted a decimal answer, would be 615.75 units squared. So this would be square units. So if it was in terms of pi, if I wanted my answer in terms of pi, I would say 196 pi. If I wanted it not in terms of pi, I would say 615.75 units squared. All right, let's do another example. Find the perimeter of this shape. Okay, perimeter means circumference. Okay, and circumference is 2 pi r. And we have a diameter here of 4 feet. So that must mean if I have a diameter of 4 feet and I know that the diameter is equal to 2r, I can divide that diameter by 2 and my radius is 2. So I want the circumference. Now remember, this is the circumferences of the whole circle. This doesn't look like a whole circle. This looks like a half of a circle, or we call it a semicircle. So I'm going to find the circumference of the whole circle, which is 4 pi. That's the whole circle. And because I want the perimeter of half of the circle, I'm going to divide it by 2. And so the circumference of this shape would be 2 pi. Or I could say that is the same as approximately 6.1 or 6.28 feet. Okay, so 2 pi feet or 6.28 feet would be the circumference of this half of the circle. Okay, let's do another one. Number 5 says I have a center of a circle that's at 5, 5. So I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's my center. Excuse me. And I know that the outside point, the circle passes through an outside point of negative 1, 5. So I would draw my circle like this. Okay? It says find the area and the circumference of the circle. So if this is an outside point and this is the center point, I should be able to find the radius. So I could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My radius is 6 units. Okay? So if my radius is 6, now I can find area and circumference. Radius is a 6, so area would be pi r squared, so pi times 6 squared, which would be 36 pi units squared. That's if I wanted it in terms of pi. If I don't want it in terms of pi, it doesn't say to leave it in terms of pi, so I'm going to go ahead and find the area, estimate it, and it's going to be approximately 113.10 units squared. Okay, circumference is 2 pi r. That's going to be 2 times pi times 6. So the circumference is 12 pi units. And therefore, if I want that in decimal answer, I would say 37.70 units. Okay, so just typing that in my calculator and getting an approximation. All right. The last problem is how would I find the area of the circle, or excuse me, I want to find the radius of this circle. And since you need that to find the area, we are going to have to figure this out. So yes, this is a square inside here. And I need to find the radius of a circle so I can find the whole area of this circle. But what I know is I have a square here. I know that both of these sides are 8. I know this side is 8, and I know this side is 8. So I need to know something about squares. What do we know about squares? We know that all the sides are the same. And because we know that, we probably can find this diagonal, which is also, it's the diagonal of the square, which is also the diameter of the circle. Okay, so I need to find this diagonal. We also know that squares have 90 degrees. Oh, and if I have a 90-degree angle and these sides are the same, I have an isosceles triangle, which means I have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Now, I could use the 45, 45, 90 triangle rules, or I could use the Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to use the 45, 45, 90 rules. I know that the hypotenuse, which is across from the 90-degree angle, is equal to the side times the square root of 2. So 8 times the square root of 2 is my hypotenuse. So this is 8 square roots of 2. That's my diameter. My hypotenuse and my diameter are the same. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Let me fix that. Okay, so now that I have a diameter, I can find the radius. Remember, diameter is equal to 2r. So the diameter is 8 square roots of 2 equals 2r. And so 2r, I can divide both sides by 2. And my radius, 8 divided by 2 is 4 times the square root of 2. So that's my radius. Now I want to find, oh, that's all I want to find. I want to find the radius of the circle. I just found the radius of the circle. That's all I needed to do. If I wanted to find the area or the circumference, I could use my radius to find area and circumference. So, knowing that the diagonal inside the square is also the diameter of the circle, and then We can find the hypotenuse using the 45, 45, 90 rules, and then taking the diameter and dividing it by 2 will get us the radius. Okay, then, okay, let's go ahead and find area just to make sure we still know how to find area. Area is pi r squared. Radius is 4 square roots of 2 times pi. And I'm kind of glad we're doing this because I want you to know how to be able to square when we have a radical. A lot of students, kind of mess this up, so we really need to make sure we know how to do this. So 4 times the square root of 2 squared. Remember, that means you have to square both of these things. 4 squared is 16, and the square root squared would give me 2. So this would be 16 times 2 times pi. The area would be 32 pi, okay, units squared. And that would approximately be 100.53 units squared. Be careful with this. This is a tough concept. Make sure that you know how to do that. If you need help, make sure that you ask in class. All right, that's all that I have for you. Be prepared to find area and circumference and maybe some radius and diameters when we come back tomorrow. Thanks. And that's all, folks.